Hi there. This time, let's make a value scale with graphite pencil without blending tools. We already have our value gradient. Next, we're going to do the scale. If you have not watched the video or done the gradient assignment, I would recommend you do that first because the scale is more advanced. And I also talk a little bit about paper and materials. For my scale, I'm going to use again 2B pencil, 2H pencil, mechanical eraser, and kneadable eraser. And then throughout, I will be sharpening with a knife and my sharpening pad. And I guess we need something to measure. And to make it a bit less confusing, because this is 10, 0, 10, I have another ruler here. You can see the measurements are 18 centimeters by 4 centimeters. And then we'll make 9 steps, 9 swatches that are 2 centimeters wide each. So it will look similar to this here, but instead of printed, we will do it with pencil by hand. So I've got height and width. Now I need my divisions and I need to decide, do I need to do my division lines with 2H or with 2B? In the end, I don't want any separating lines. I just want swatches of different tones. So I think I'll start with the 2B on the dark spectrum, the dark end, and then switch to 2H. This ruler is nice because I can measure this way, make sure everything is at right angles, and I'll stay a little bit on the too light side with my lines here rather than too dark. I can always make them darker, but it's more work to erase them and make them lighter. And let's bring all of that a bit closer to the camera again, because it's quite detailed work. One, two, three, four. Value number 5, which will be the middle value. I am now making the dividing line with the 2H pencil. Actually, might be smarter now to start from this side. Just there might be sub-millimeter inaccuracies. If I keep going from one side, the inaccuracies might compound. And here I realized that this swatch is too wide. And I left it in the recording because this might happen to you. And I think it's worth doing this again. Now I'll make sure that this is exactly 18. So I keep smudging my gradient, which is not good. So I should either put fixative on it, or cover it, or cut it off and have 2 separate pieces of paper, one for my gradient and one for my scale. I think for this I'm going to cover it. So I have a piece of paper that I'm going to put on top. as a protective measure. All right. Now, to B, to H, we will start with the extremes. The darkest dark, the lightest light. That's going to be the paper. This is going to be 2B. So these will be filled in, or the darkest dark I'll fill in, the lightest light stays the same. And then I'm going to the middle, value number 5, and find my estimate for how dark that value needs to be. Again, check my point. It's on the edge. I'm gonna start, but then sharpen it quite soon. You know what? I'm gonna get a second piece of paper as a protection. Put this on the part of the scale that I am not working on, so that I can rest my palm without smudging anything. So here I want to go as dark as I can with my 2B and create a tone that is as smooth as I can make it. In a way, the darkest value is the easiest because I just press enough to get the darkest tone out of this pencil. And it will be smooth automatically. It will be quite even. My pencil is already too blunt to work on the very edge, so I'm giving myself a little bit of a gap. And then once I sharpen, I'm going to fill that in. On the inside, I can use even the blunt pencil. Here I'm sharpening again and checking my point. And that is my darkest dark done. If we number, maybe that would be a good idea now. We have value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 1 and 2 are defined. 1 is the darkest dark, 9 is the lightest light, which is the value of the paper. Next we go to the middle, value number 5. And I'll have to make an estimate for how dark that tone is. And I work with 2B, and I'll keep my point sharper than it is now, because it will be faster overall to create smooth tones from the beginning than if I go crazy and make a mess now and then have to clean all of that up. So, time to sharpen. I'm trying to keep my point the same sharpness, more or less, throughout filling in one swatch. Because different sharpness point will create different quality of texture. So I would like to have the same quality of texture throughout my number 5 swatch here. Here I'm getting some distance to assess my value better and see if my number 5 is a good tone. And there's some graphite shine on value number 1. So if I tilt, that's more like what it looks like to my eye as I'm working. If anything, this is a bit on the dark side, but I think it's pretty good. But I will be careful not to push darker than what I have now. All right. How clean and calm you make each tone is up to you. I would recommend making them fairly clean. Like this is pretty good, I think. I could spend more time on island hunting and just making this perfect, but that would be a waste of time, I think, at this point, because it might be that the whole swatch is too light or too dark, and adjusting it will probably create more new noise and irregularities. So it just needs to be calm enough that it reads as one tone overall. Okay, so we have darkest dark, lightest light, and we have the middle. So now we're going to go to the middles again. So here we're going to fill in this tone, and here we're going to fill in this tone. So number 3 and number 7. Again, estimating in terms of contrast to get something right between the existing tones. For number 7, there's a question whether we should use 2H or 2B. I'll go 2H. So I'm trying to create the middle between the white of the paper and this tone. This is kind of a pencil sharpening assignment. I want my point to be very clear, very, very sharp when I work on these transitions between swatches. So it's quite sharp, but not sharp enough. Okay, now that's good. I'm constantly assessing, even now. Now I have a tone. Is that tone the middle between the paper and number 5? Or is it too dark or is it too light? I think it's pretty good, but maybe a touch too dark. So I can lift my finger. Yeah, let's go for that. That's just my first guess. I will have to adjust all of these swatches, but I'll try to guess as accurately as I can. occasionally I'm lifting out some tone with my finger, but I'm not smudging. I'm just using my finger kind of like a kneadable eraser. By doing the value scale, you're also going to develop your hand-eye coordination and the ability to have a soft touch, to be delicate with the tone you put on. I need that to create this light number 7 tone now. Later, even more on swatch number 8. Now, on camera, it looks quite a bit harsher than it looks to my eye. So let's try tilting it. Yeah, feels pretty good overall. It's a bit too noisy, so I'll even it out more. But if we go 1, 2, 3, that feels like an even progression. Whenever I hold a tool, I am looking for opportunities in the whole piece to use that tool. So now I have the eraser in my hand. I was working here, but I might also just erase a few things while I have that tool. And a little bit of precise erasing can make a huge difference in your drawing. Next, value 3. And that will be a medium average between 1 and 5. So definitely using 2B again here. And you might ask yourself why I'm not using, let's say, 4B and 3B or 2B, HB, and H and 2H. And for me, it's just simpler to have 2 pencils to deal with. The one I'm not holding is the one I need if I need to switch. You know, there's only 2 options. I need to work a bit more carefully with the HB in the darker tones. Sorry, with the 2B in the darker tones. Having that light touch. And the 2B will get blunt faster than if I was using, let's say, an HB here. I could use the HB for a longer time without sharpening. But for me, it's worth the additional sharpening. I think that's the price I pay, and what I get for it is simplicity of only having to worry about 2 pencils. But yeah, the 2B does get blunt very quickly. What you can also do is prepare several 2B pencils, sharpen them, maybe 2 or 3 of them, sharpen them all, and then start a session. Then when one is blunt, you can pick up the next one. You don't need to stop your flow. But I guess then you have more pencils again to keep track of. So the way I'm approaching this is I make an area of tone and I keep that area quite clean. I could go much faster, create catching with lines, like let's say like this, but then I need to clean that up, and cleaning it might take more time than going slowly like this. I can also see the tone quite clearly right away if I do it this way. So now I feel like I can probably push it a touch darker than what I have. I'm assessing the tones to see if the progression is natural, harmonious. Maybe it can go a touch darker still. I think it's more too light than too dark. So there are islands, there are light islands and there are dark islands. If my tone overall is too light, I'll focus on filling in the light islands. Which, the more I do that, the more the tone overall appear dark. Or not just appear, but be dark. So I'm calming down the tone, evening out the noise, and at the same time I'm adjusting the value. Good enough, I think. So next phase is to fill in all the remaining 4 tones. And I think I'm gonna go from the light side because I feel less confident in that area. I think having swatch number 8 toned in will be a big help for me. Now this will be the lightest tone I have, so I need to be very subtle. And I can start here or I can start here. I think I'll start at this border, meeting value number 9. So I can assess how close or different they are. Okay, might be too dark already, although it looks darker on this camera somehow than it does look to my eye. Yeah, I'll lift out a touch. Literally. So again, if we're just looking at the last 3 tones, then that should be in the middle of these 2. Which I think is Close enough. Okay, I'm gonna clean up later. Let's continue with 2, 4, and 6. And I'm thinking about whether it makes a difference which one we do first. Could say, since we've gone from the extreme here, we might go from the extreme here. So let's do number 2 next. That will mean a lot of sharpening again, working with my 2B. And I think I'm actually running out of lead, so I need to expose more lead by removing the wood. The shallower I make this angle of the wood, the easier it will be to lay the pencil flat when I sharpen. Okay, continuous taper. That looks pretty good. And on we go. So one challenge now is going to be maintaining this sharp transition here as well as here. The value contrast will be quite small, but we still need to have a sharp edge. So I'll start here. We need to be slightly darker than number 3. Yeah, forget it. See, it doesn't work. It's creating a soft transition now. I snapped my pencil, so I need to get that sharp point back now. I am making a line, and I'm gonna fill the tone up to that line. I'm pressing quite hard, but not as hard as I did on value number 1. The more tone I fill, the easier it will be to see the transition I just made between number 2 and number 3. In the beginning it's hard to see that line. Again here working carefully to maintain that nice clean sharp edge I have right now. Going right up against the edge, but not over it. I'll leave a gap here and deal with that edge in a moment. Already now the quality of tone is rougher. I'm getting more texture because my pencil is starting to get blunter again. Let's go actually on the top edge now because I have such a sharp point. I should use it. Goodbye. I have this protective sheet. When you place your hand on it, or from my perspective, when I place my hand on that sheet, I'm careful not to drag it with pressure on it. That would smudge the tones that are underneath. This is the craft. We are quite deep in pencil technique now. I think once you're aware of these things, you can let your subconscious handle that. You will just focus on what type of tone you want to create, what type of edge you want to create, and it will happen automatically. I think soon I'm gonna also check the actual value to see if I can push darker or whether that is a good middle between 1 and 3. Okay. In the camera it looks like 1 and 2 are maybe too close together, but yeah, as I tilt, see there's glare here when it lays flat. When I tilt, you see more actual darkness of it. But yeah, this is tending value number 2 is rather too dark than too light. It's too similar to 1 and too different from 3. So I'm going to lift it with my finger again. And now you can really see the section that I lifted. Make sure you clean your fingers after you do that. This movement is quite good. Get your fingers in there. Lift the graphite out of your skin. You can also see the difference here. That's lifted and that's before. Now the lifting with my finger is not so great because I'm leaving oil on the paper and I'm risking softening that edge too much. So I'll do it once, twice, we leave it at that. We do need to be darker on number 2 than we are on number 3. Now it's quite subtle value control. All right, value assessment. So it needs to go darker, which is good, better than it needs to go lighter. As you see me filling in these tiny islands, maybe you get a sense for how far you can take this. All right, now I feel quite good about these three. Yeah, so let's go either 4 or 6. Let's go with 6. (2b) or 2h? I think 2h is fine over there. Let's check that value. Maybe again a little bit too dark. Let's see. Yeah, between 5 and 7. This feels too similar to 5. Seems like I have a tendency to go a bit too dark when I start a new one. I'm not liking this transition. I might have to rework that. Let's see. Okay, this is too light overall, too similar to 7, so it can go darker overall, but let's see if that is the right tone or if I need to be a little bit lighter. Alright, that feels pretty good for the tones that we have. The only value that's missing now is number 4. And I think we should continue with the 2B with a pretty light touch. Okay, we've reached a milestone, which is to fill in all of the swatches. The distribution feels decent, feels okay overall. I can definitely clean up many of the tones more. So that's things like this black dot. That's a dark island. Then there are light islands I can fill in and just calm everything down as much as possible. The transitions between the swatches are working fairly well. On some of them there are dark lines, like here and here. Yeah. That I'm going to even out as best as I can. And then this will be done. So now, clean up. All right, let's call this one done. You can keep polishing and refining these things forever, but this has to do for me for today. So I hope this demonstration was helpful, and I wish you success with your value scale. As you work, keep in mind that your goal is to create even value contrast between each step. Also, use the island hunting method to keep your tones smooth and even. Here is an example of tone that got a little bit rough. Also, aim for sharp transitions between value steps. Here's an example that became a little bit too soft. And here's one where the dividing lines have become too heavy. We did it! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.